I'm here today with Tristan Walker, who's the founder and CEO of Walker and Brands Company, which is a leading health and beauty company that makes products for the African American community. So I want to start with a question about the role of business leaders in this particular moment. You know, oftentimes business leaders stay on the sidelines of social issues. They don't want to get involved. You obviously have been really outspoken in this moment. Why has it been important for you to speak out, and why is it important for business leaders more broadly to do the same?
Well, I think it's important for a number of reasons. First, I am a Black man before I am a CEO and a founder. I am a Black father. I am a Black son. I am a Black brother, right? I'm a Black husband. And it's important for me to show our people, many of whom also represent, the audience that is experiencing this trauma, that we care, right? And if I'm not acknowledging this trauma, if I am not helping model the way, and if I am not acting, what do we do this for in the first place, right? And Walker Company was really built on representing a future that we all feel deserves to exist. And it is my duty to speak out, not only as a Black man, but also as the founder CEO, representing an audience, that is going through this together.
Absolutely. One of the criticisms that business leaders sometimes get is, they might say the right things, but then, are their companies really taking that to heart? Are they lobbying the right way? Or are they really, practicing what they preach? So I'm curious, what are your thoughts on that? How are you making sure that you practice what you preach?
Yeah, no, it's, thank goodness for Walker and Company. Look, we have a company that is, majority folks of color, majority kind of folks of color in positions of leadership at my company, majority women as well. And I'm very proud that we have an audience that reflects the diversity of the consumer base that we serve. And what makes that important is that it allows us to have conversations that are not only meaningful, but truly genuine and authentic. Just last week, and in weeks prior and years prior, I continue to be reminded of the fact, and I kind of tell my team this, and we continue to be reminded of the fact that, we're a part of a community that's experienced, over 400 years of physical and emotional trauma, right? And inflicted on us by, citizens of a country that really itself is claimed to be built on the self-evident truth that all men are created equal. And while we're tired of it, right, we must recognize that we built this company, again, to represent a future that we all feel deserves to exist. So what's important, and I'm very lucky to be running Walker & Company where these conversations are welcome. It's important that all the other organizations recognize that this kind of conversation is necessary. Because again, without the acknowledgement of that trauma, how can you progress, right? There are folks within your company who are experiencing it in real time. And if our company is about our people, we need to be empathetic to that. And again, once that acknowledgement happens, then we can model the way effectively.
Right. You've spoken about economic empowerment for Black Americans as an economic opportunity. Can you explain why that is and what you mean by that?
Yeah, I think the economic empowerment of Black folks in the U.S. is the greatest economic opportunity of my lifetime, whether it be for-profit or not-for-profit. And I think for America, the most important thing that it could focus on right now. Look, we're experiencing a country that has this 1%, 99% problem, right? Where folks at the top and the 1% are leveraging things like technology, right, in ways to make them a hell of a lot more productive. Providing them pathways to not hire as many people as they need, right? That productivity driver is an economic driver for them, but it really forgets, the folks in the quote unquote 99%, many of whom are kind of influencing the culture, that are inspiring folks to consume the things that you sell, leaving them out of the equation, right? And I think there needs to be a great equalizer in terms of economic empowerment for this audience. And, when I think about Black Americans, we are not only the most culturally influential demographic group on the planet, but when you think more broadly about folks of color, we're not only the majority of this country in 20, 30 years, but we are the majority of the world right now, right? Our needs deserve to be respected. Our influence deserves to be respected, and it will be, right? But it's important that we all have a care, right, to ensuring that we're promoting this economic empowerment because it's good for everybody.
Right. Yeah, I want to talk about empowerment and talk about your signature product, both Bevel and Form Beauty. Can you talk a bit about why empowerment beyond empowering people, giving jobs, et cetera, but why is it important to have beauty products, health and beauty products that actually are tailored for our needs, for my needs, say as a Black
Yeah,
American.
look, we are people too, right? And we have needs that deserve to be respected. Our unique difference deserves to be respected. I have two sons, one a 5-year-old, one a 1-year-old. They deserve, when they're older, to be able to walk down a retail aisle, right? That everybody can walk down and feel proud about the products that they can use that are uniquely kind of tailored to their own unique needs. Bevel is that, right? And when I think about the representation that my son gets to see, not only from the folks that are within things like our advertising, but knows that his father is a Black man with colleagues who look like him, with a consumer base that is proud of what this thing can represent. That is a powerful, powerful story that can and probably should scale. And that's why I've really dedicated my life to that, because it is important, right? There are 40 million Black folks in the country, right? And these are 40 million unique folks with unique needs, much like the 7 billion people around the world, right? And we are undying in our commitment in respecting that difference, however different you are, right? That difference should be celebrated. And isn't that the world that deserves to exist, right? I want to see a world that exists where folks like you don't have to ask that question anymore, right? And there's really no rebuttal against it.
Absolutely. What Silicon Valley, entrepreneurship has been a great driver of economic wealth, growth, and of wealth, building of wealth in this century. And of course, like much of this country, Black Americans have disproportionately been left out of that growth. What should be done to encourage Black entrepreneurship, to make sure that Black Americans are getting a bigger piece, a more representative piece of that pie?
Yeah, so I think there are a number of things here, and this I think is really the point. When I talk about that kind of 1%, 99% thing, and the kind of difference between the gap between the rich and the poor, and the fact that the middle class is somewhat melting away and non-existent, it's really technology's impact on that is fairly profound. And technology is a great equalizer, right? So if we can help the folks that don't necessarily have the access to these tools, leverage technology to be as productive as the folks that are, you will have done something uniquely special for this world. Now, when we think about technology, I think a lot of folks think about it as this isolated Silicon Valley thing. Silicon Valley is just a region, right? Mass and a few zip codes, right? And a lot of folks will kind of talk about, and deservedly so, we need to have more representation from the moneyed interest, right? We need more Black venture capitalists, right? We need more women venture capitalists. But I think it's a little bit more profound than that. Technology is everywhere. We need to support entrepreneurship in its most scalable form. Every small, medium-sized business needs to leverage technology in ways to make them more productive. That's those on Main Street and those who are looking to get their startups kind of funded in Silicon Valley. And I think the problem is a lot more pervasive. So what can we do? I think the moneyed interests need to represent this audience a lot better. So whether it's kind of the large firms kind of doing what they can to limit things like bias in order to kind of inspire a new generation of financiers to help here. I think there needs to be a respect for this interest, or for this influence of this audience. Black consumers have $1 trillion of influence, right? That's real. And that's just Black Americans, right? This is just good business for everybody. And I think the quicker folks come to terms with what they already know to be true, this is what the research suggests. This is the same stuff that they read in the newspapers or the case studies in business school, right? Diversity matters and helps your bottom line. they're duty bound to make this stuff happen for their shareholders and for themselves.
I'm curious, how do you, running a company right now in this like crazy moment, how do you communicate with your employees to, you know, help them through this moment? I mean, how do you how do you help them through this moment?
Yeah. So, I talked a little bit about the acknowledgement of the trauma, which, I think
Yeah.
is important. And this moment is significant because not only are we dealing with kind of the persistent kind of racism, but also there's another pandemic with COVID-19, right? So I think that there's my ability to build capacity for empathy, and each of our ability to build more capacity for empathy. Time's of the essence on that, and I think we've respected that. Going into kind of each of these pandemics, so to speak. But the way I deal with it is taking a step back and saying, all right, how are we going to model the way forward, right? And it really comes back to remembering that our company has been built on a set of really lasting values that have not only inspired us to really persist through it, but also our Black brothers and sisters, right? And I've said this quite a bit. We have 6 values: courage, inspiration, respect, judgment, wellness, and loyalty. And now it's really as important a time as ever to really stand firm. Ensure that our consumers are holding us accountable to it. But really important here, we got to pick a side, right? And that side for us is kind of a more equitable kind of experience for our Black brothers and sisters, right? And justice. And when we act, it's important that we also consider the fact that our consumers are people, right? And they're dealing with many of the same traumas that we ourselves are dealing with, right? So whether it's things like, how can we actually shine more light on kind of the situation that's brought to bear here in America? How do we kind of talk more about the need for access to mental health services and self-care, right? We have to recognize that we're a community of fathers, mothers, and sons and brothers, right? And provide them with the tools and the access they need to be taking care of themselves. Especially for a kind of self-care brand as we are, right? We need to be as authentic and genuine and have a place to help here. So, in our modeling the way in our action, we try and reinforce this every day with our people. And the more and more we do it, we're in a time now where that's especially important, but our work doesn't end.
Yeah. Are you optimistic that this moment is going
Yes.
to change things? Yeah. You're ready for that. Yeah.
I mean, I am, we've seen over the past 400 plus years of this kind of, again, physical and emotional trauma, we've seen some progress, right? And I could only hope that there will be more, right? And the recognition that, really the road to progress isn't really a one-lane highway. Like, we all have our ways of kind of influencing and helping kind of spearhead progress. And, Walker & Company is a part of that. There are things that I can personally do that's a part of that. There are folks around the world that are contributing to this progress, right? So I have to remain optimistic that this is the case, right? So yes, I do. Folks who are out there on the front lines, organizations that are realizing that the way that they've done business in the past needs to change, right? Our people trying to find ways that we can inspire action, not only for ourselves, but also our consumers. It's difficult to not feel some semblance of optimism or hope anyway, that things can be better. And I think it will, right? But we really have to, keep persisting, right? Again, built on these lasting set of values that I mentioned a little earlier. And as we continue to do that, I think progress will come.
Right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. It's been great to chat.
Thank you. It's an awesome time.